Let's make the case for a free state project in maybe in a way it wouldn't be your first go-to. Let me pull up this story. This is from CNN. The workers who keep global supply chains moving are warning of a system collapse. Seafarers, truck drivers, airline workers have endured quarantines, travel restrictions, and complex COVID-19 vaccination and testing requirements to keep stretched supply chains moving during the pandemic. In an open letter Wednesday to heads of state attending the United Nations General Assembly, the International Chamber of Shipping and other industry groups warned of a global transport system collapse if governments do not restore freedom of movement to transport workers and give them priority to receive vaccines recognized by the World Health Organization. We got trucker shortages here. We got them in the UK. The idea that you will be able to just float in this system and things are going to go like normal, like you can walk to the grocery store and there are your strawberries, is a joke. It's not true. People need to start being responsible for themselves because they are telling us the system is collapsing. But I got one more for you from Timcast.com. 82% of Americans are scared that supply chain issues will ruin their life plans. Oh, all right then. 82% of people already know this. Well, here's an option. You can get 100 acres in New Hampshire for like 200 grand. And then just start getting to it. Start working.
The Free State Project is Social Security for people who don't believe in Social Security.
So what do you think is going to happen what's the ultimate goal? Free State, New Hampshire secedes or what?
So the project takes no stance on secession. So the idea is, again, just get people here. I think this is and I'm now giving my personal opinion. Like, I'm totally cool with secession. I would love it if it happens. I think there's a huge opportunity to simply push nullification, right? Like, nullification gets done a lot. What's the most successful anarchist or libertarian movement in the United States? Anyone want to venture a guess?
No, what is it?
The Amish.
Yeah?
Yeah. The Amish don't pay Social Security.
What, really?
Yep.
Why not?
Because the 200,000 of them got together and said, screw you. We're not doing it.
Wow.
The Amish don't have to participate in the draft.
What?
Yeah. They're the only organization, they're the only people exempt from the draft.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you have there's an aspect of government that's like very much sour grapes in terms of what it wants to control. And by that I mean, if the government can't control something, it acts like it never wanted to.
Right.
Right. And so if you have enough people who are willing to get together and say, no, screw you, like people started their own city in Seattle and there was not the government will to go in and control it.
Well, until they went to the mayor's house or
right. But if you get enough people together in one place and they're willing to say, screw you, like the federal government is not going to wage a civil war. Right. And so, like, I think if you want to achieve secession, which I'm totally cool with, this is not like an anti-secession, I support it. But, like, you can do a lot of things. You can say, well, we're not going to participate in these federal programs. We're not going to give you this money. We're not going to collect income tax from New Hampshire residents, right? And you can play this sort of game of brinksmanship where you're pushing it on them to do something.
Well, the reason I ask about secession is, watching what we're seeing in the economy, right? People need to understand the M1 money stock is just skyrocketing. They opened up savings accounts so that everyone can use savings like checking. They removed the reserve requirements. Apparently, we're just finding this out from Bob Murphy. They removed reserve requirements for giving out loans, which means banks can literally just be like, here's money, whatever. We have no idea. Yeah, the system's on fire, right? Now, here's what happens. We have a lot of people who watch, and their attitude is the system is too comfortable for me to do anything differently, right? I don't want to stand up and risk my family and my house and my job. I got kids to feed, so I'm not going to put them at risk for a political cause. But I think all that they're really saying is I will not prepare for what is happening right before me. So I just want to ask you, like, what do you think happens to a New Hampshire in the event of a breakdown of economic trade lines? I mean, are people there going to just farm their own food and be self-sufficient or what?
I mean, I think New Hampshire could be self-sufficient if necessary. I think self-sufficiency doesn't have to mean that you're doing everything yourself. It's about like it can also be part of having a network, to do that. And there's a huge agorism community. There are a bunch of farms in New Hampshire. There are a bunch of people who are doing their own thing. And I'll say to like your point about like people not wanting to stand up, I have some sympathy to that. Like, it's hard to go first, but one of the things you can do is get together with 10,000 other people who all want to go 10,000th, right? And then you can all act together, right?
Or just go to New Hampshire now because a bunch of people are already there.
Exactly. Like you'll have a better life immediately. You'll get to live with people who share your values. By far the greatest density of libertarians in the entire world. And like if there's ever going to be something that happens, like you're there, you're going to be a part of it. You don't, and like I'm not trying to knock being brave. I think people who are willing to be brave, who are willing to put their head on the line, I think they're awesome. And a lot of these people are my heroes, my personal heroes. But if you're saying like, hey, I don't want to be that guy, but I still want to win, Free State Project's also a very good choice, you know, because you'll still get to be a part of it, but you don't have to be the very first guy and get your head chopped off.
So let's take a look at the economy from a more libertarian perspective, I guess. Your thoughts on, you know, everything I mentioned about the banking system, what they've been doing. Obviously, you know, Ian talks about the Fed a lot. We criticize this system, but like, what's your view of what's going on with this?
I mean, I think it's very messed up. I think it's clear that there's like a lot of inflation happening. I mean, as a libertarian, like my perspective on this is like, you want free banking. You want a competition in currencies. Like let the best currency win. Allow there to be competition in terms of how currencies are going to be provided and how they work. I mean, I think there's all kinds of interesting things you can do with money beyond even Bitcoin that can't be done because of government regulation. I think David Friedman had some very interesting ideas, you know, about how to design free money that was like stable and track the price of goods. Going back to the 70s, those could be done on the blockchain, and there's all kinds of things that you could do. But there's no doubt that the system is very messed up. As to what degree it collapses, I mean, I'm not an economist, so I'm not gonna venture that. But I think it's clear that like there is like a house of cards type situation here, and to what degree it collapses, you know, I don't know.
Usually all at once.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at the way
gradually, then suddenly.
Yeah. With the way it looks like, yes, it is collapsing, but it also looks like it's being demolished with this behavior of shutting down almost the entire economy, a large percentage of it, and mass printing of money. That's like a demolition move. So I would imagine, like you said,
well, there's that
all
meme.
at once.
There's that meme where they say the carbon they're trying to reduce is you. Have you ever seen that?
I'm seeing so many people in prominent positions that don't understand you can recollect the carbon from the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and turn it into graphene.
Maybe that's not the issue, Ian.
Yeah, it's no different. The global warming stuff is no different than the COVID stuff, right? Like the people who push it, and I'm not trying to say that global warming's real, but like the people who push it, they're pushing it for reasons of dominating other people, right? And that's why the focus is so much on the communism aspects. That's why they don't care about nuclear power. That's why they don't care about removing carbon from the environment, right? That's why they don't, because it's not about that. That's not why they care.
I mean, they're like, wow, this is a problem. And here's what ends up happening. They say, okay, climate change is a problem, right? We got a whole lot of people cranking out a whole lot of waste, mercury in the waters, dead zones, bugs disappearing, all this stuff because humans are affecting the planet. What do? Well, we can reduce carbon in the atmosphere. We can clean up our oceans. And like, yeah, but that doesn't stop the human behavior. It won't change the fact that humans are expanding, are growing, and eating and consuming and wasting. So how do you stop it in the long run? And they say, authoritarianism. Take away their stuff. Don't let them live the way they want to live. Convince them to live a certain way that you want them to live because we're right. The problem is, as much as we can look at a lot of the global problems and be like, yeah, these are bad things. You know, like climate change is bad, the dead zones in the ocean, the constant droughts, whatever you want to attribute these things to, these are bad things affecting us, and we need to be better in tune with our environment. Why should we blindly trust other people who just think they're smarter or better? That's ultimately the problem. There was that quote we read, I forgot the guy's name, maybe you guys know, where he was like, if, you know, humans are so dumb that they need a special class to rule them, how are these individuals who claim to be better actually any better than the people they claim are too stupid to rule themselves? So what ends up happening is they say the solution isn't to pull carbon from the atmosphere. The solution is stop the chickens from taking a dump in their water, or just get rid of those chickens that are taking a dump in their water.
It's honestly just like COVID. Like COVID's real and it kills people. Is the debate and discussion around COVID actually about preventing that? No, it's not. Like climate change is real and it's going to cause changes and potentially harm to our environment. Is the way that climate change is discussed and the way that policies that are being proposed, is it about solving that problem? No, it's not.
Right.
Yeah, it's about preventing the problem rather than treating the problem. The problem's here. The problem is not going away. You can't stop people from pooping. They're going to keep pooping. You got to reuse it.
Unless there's less people.
But Technically, but that doesn't scale because there will always be more people.
That's not true.
Well, they will continue to reproduce unless you sterilize the population and make clones forever.
That's not true, Ian. I believe in the United States they're below replacement now.
We are, yeah.
Yeah, and Japan's been below replacement for some time.
Most
Greece
of the West.
and Europe, most of the West is below replacement.
Free staters are above replacement.
Oh, snap.
Is that
Look
true?
at that.
What is it globally?
You don't know?
Freedom for freedom.
Are you joking or what?
I don't know. I got 3. I'm doing my part.
I'm kind of looking at like the ocean cleanup. This is Boyan Slat's project in the Pacific. They're cleaning up the Great Garbage Patch, the gyre. And they did this. It's on my Twitter page. This amazing. They found all this trash. This is from one run.
And it's not even from America.
This is from the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and they dumped it. And he was like, "We're 1/60,000th of the way there. We're going to clean this up." And that's like 80 years away if this doesn't even scale, which it will.
And the problem is that garbage didn't come from America, from the
It came
United
from
States.
the entire planet. It came from our species, basically.
It mostly comes from China and India and Southeast Asia and that part. We know that.
So there's no stopping this from happening.
I mean,
we're going to keep dumping in the water. That's been.
It's not we. It's
humans.
China.
I'm saying humans are going to continue to dump in the water. We just need to figure out how to reuse the stuff.
I think you need to be more specific because when Greta Thunberg comes out and looks at one of the most environmental, one of the countries with the most environmentalists and says, "How dare you?" and doesn't talk about China and India and these other countries that are just polluting like crazy, we're not going to solve the problem, especially if China's 1.4 billion people, the United States and the West, who are actually environmentally conscious and the ones leading the charge against climate change, they're in decline.
To be honest, if I have to be the world's custodian, I'll do it. I don't want to clean up everyone else's mess, but if that means that's what we need to do to survive, I'll do it.
The problem is, Ian, you can't legislate for China.
No.
So in the United States, where we already banned plastic straws, even though we're not contributing for the most part to these big garbage patches, and then we go to China and these international agreements and say, "You agree not to do this." They say, "You bet, we agree not to do this." And they say, "We don't care. We're not going to listen to them. We're going to do whatever we want."
Yeah. Well, in a way, waste can become very profitable because if you can break down the plastic back into sugar or into oil, you can reuse it, so it becomes a commodity. I think that's a way to spark cleanup.
Yeah. Are they? And I'm not a climate scientist. Are they related? Like, is like litter and waste is not necessarily the thing that's causing climate change. Isn't climate change mostly being driven by like the use of fossil fuels?
Yeah, mostly methane and carbon dioxide, I think, which is mostly carbon. CH4 is methane.
I think, the issue with climate change is that it's a very specific claim, very, very narrowed down to humans producing too much carbon, causing the climate to change. When the real thing we talk about, because we had Chris Martenson on, is just ecosystem stresses and potential collapse.
Yeah.
I'm not look, climate change, I get it, but it's one facet of we have dead zones in the Gulf of Mexico where chemical runoff creates this patch with no oxygen in the water, so nothing lives. We have fisheries that are so overfished that jellyfish are coming in, and the people start eating jellyfish, which is kind of gross, but I guess they do. These are the problems we face. The windshield phenomenon, bug populations being decimated, colony collapse disorder, bees, our pollinators are disappearing. It is not just the one thing. It is, in my view, when you get 8 billion people consuming and producing tons of waste, even though we still have massive amounts of space on this planet where humans aren't, you still have a disproportionate amount of waste that isn't being absorbed by the ecosystem quickly enough. That's the big issue. Now, how we solve that? Well, it would be great if we had like a real Green New Deal, in my opinion, where it was actually like, hey, we all agree to like stop spending money on dumb wars and stuff, and then decide to just hire people and do nuclear energy investment and energy research and fusion.
Carbon recapture.
Instead, the only thing we can get is, for one, Republicans are totally opposed to this, and it'll never happen through Republicans. And then when the Democrats finally come around, AOC is like, I propose a Green New Deal. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm listening. And she goes, free college for minorities. And I'm like, what? That's making the problem worse.
Yeah.
If you're complaining about if you're complaining about America producing too much carbon, and then you're saying bring in more people into America where they will use more carbon, the left is literally just arguing to make the problem worse. And there is almost no one in this country saying we should have more nuclear energy. We should have modern advancements in nuclear.
The libertarians say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do we end up with? Yeah, the planet's still in trouble. Humans are a disproportionate force on this planet. And it's not going to get done through the Democrats because they're too worried about, minorities not getting health care, I guess.
I mean, it's not going to get done by either of them, and it's not going to get done by the libertarians either. So
no, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I will, to give at least like a little bit of an optimistic spin, like, and I think a lot of the pollution stuff where we're actually like damaging ecosystems, I think that stuff's pretty bad. But in terms of like climate change being this existential threat I'm skeptical of some of that. I think that like, so I don't know if it's like Scott Adams like rule about slow moving disasters. Like, I think human beings are actually like very good at solving these kinds of problems, and I think that a lot of the hysteria, and I'm not saying that's not real, but similar to COVID, a lot of the hysteria is driven by a desire to create changes to subjugate people that the people creating the hysteria don't like.
No, exactly. Why is it that AOC's Green New Deal had more to do with social justice than a Green New Deal? Because that's not her agenda. Her agenda is not the climate or the planet. Her agenda is identitarianism. So she'll hold up a big thing that says climate, and then everyone says, I would like to buy onto your climate plan. Yeah, because they don't actually read it. Inside it, it's like racism.
She abused, what's that guy's name? Roosevelt's New Deal. She just abused the name, just reused it like this stupid media culture where they keep making sequels to dumb stuff.
You know, here's the thing. If I go to the store, and I see in the newspaper, and it says, you know, special moon boots. You wear them and you can jump 2 feet higher than normal. It's a kid's toy, and then I go there and I buy it. It's a skateboard. I can be like, I open the box and there's a skateboard, and I'm like, this is not what you advertised. I can file a claim against that. The government recognizes you've lied. But the politicians, that's all they do. Literally everything they have is the Patriot Act. Are you a patriot?
Do you want to hear?
Right, now we can spy on your bathroom.
Here's a libertarian solution to this problem that will literally never happen, like most libertarian solutions. And it's make politicians make actual concrete predictions about the effects of their legislation. So like literally when you pass a bill, you have to say what it's going to accomplish, and you have to make predictions. This is going to reduce carbon by this amount. This is going to create, you know, this specific amount of jobs, or not that the government can necessarily create jobs, but the point is like you have to make specific predictions, and then you judge, did it actually happen? And you make concrete predictions.
You know, I found there's two types of problems, or at least in this analogy, there's two types of problems. There's problems like you can solve them by making them not happen. That's like your son hits your daughter, smacks your daughter, and you say, no, don't do that. Don't ever do that again. And then he stops. But then there's problems like global warming creating waste. You can't tell people to stop creating waste. That's not an option in this situation. It's an endemic issue. You can consider it not a problem. Problems aren't bad. They're there to have problem solution. It's in math. They're not bad. But this isn't a problem that can be solved by stopping the behavior. We need to alter the solution.
Well, I think you need to actually adjust the costs. Like, and it's much more straightforward in the case of waste, where you can like track it down and attribute the blame and say, hey, whoever is dumping this stuff, you need to pay this amount of money to fix the problem. I actually think from a libertarian perspective, the hardest one is something like climate change, where it's like, it's quite unclear what the externality is of me burning a fossil fuel, of a gallon of gas. What was that externality? What was the cost to it? There are people who argue that it's not even clear that it's a negative externality. There are some people who argue that the Earth getting warmer is actually better for humans. Yes. And I'm not endorsing that view necessarily, but there are people who argue.
I've seen evidence that we're still at the end of the last ice age, but because the comets hit Earth 13,000 years ago that melted all the ice, it doesn't seem like we're in an ice age, but we're actually still in an ice age coming out of it, which is why things are warming.
And by the way,
that's from Utah.
New Hampshire getting warmer is not bad for New Hampshire. So from a self-interested perspective.
Right. It's not bad to have no glaciers on Earth. It might be great.
Yeah. I mean seriously, it's not. Like it's not clear. Like we're a lot of the climate change stuff is from accepting that the current status quo is what's best.
Like cities on the coast.
Yeah, right. And obviously there would be costs to moving or adjusting things or damming things, but like it's not clear that an average Earth temperature of 2 degrees Celsius higher is actually worse for humans than the current temperature.
I think the fear that floods and things is legit. Fear of flooding fresh water into the ocean, killing life is legit, but it doesn't mean it's going to be worse after it happened.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.